another episode of Small Town Expectations. I'm Brandi Rose, along with my wonderful partner, Hales Bassing.
Hello.
We are super excited for the guest this week. It's a heavy episode to come, but stay tuned because it is really good. It's really good.
It's intense.
It's really intense.
Her story's like, whoa.
Yeah. Yes. So get excited for that. But in the meantime, we have a little bit of, someness to share with you. Don't forget to follow us on all social media. We're on Twitter at smalltownexpectations_podcast, Facebook, Smalltown Podcast, Instagram, and of course, you can listen anywhere on the World Wide Web at radbrandi.com. That's where we post lots of pictures along with the stories and the links, just in case you aren't somebody who's downloaded any kind of podcast app, or you have a friend. Obviously, you're listening somewhere, but maybe you wanted to recommend that a family member or a friend listen to a particular episode. Send them over to radbrandi.com, and then they don't have to worry about downloading something if that makes them nervous. It's just really easy to go over there, and it'll take you to those links, and you can listen to any episode that we've posted so far.
Yep. Which
is pretty cool. And also see the pictures that folks send us for their episode.
There's a cute picture of me this week.
Is there?
Yeah.
What picture is it?
It's me with Big Paw, my mom's grandpa.
Oh, you posted one?
I'm going to with this episode.
Okay. Oh, well, yeah, so that leads perfectly into, well, actually, no, we got to cover, first of all, if you would like to be on the podcast, you can email us at smalltownpodcast@yahoo.com, smalltownpodcast@yahoo.com. That's the place that you email us and you tell us that you would like to share your story and your experiences, and we will make that happen. Mostly, we've just run into people and mention like, hey, you have a neat story, and you should come on the podcast. And usually people are really shy about it at first, and somehow we always talk people into it.
Yeah.
But if you are somebody who we don't personally know, then that's the way to get on the show, and that we would genuinely get so excited and love to have you on, whether you're coming into our home to record or we're recording via phone or Skype or whatever. Not Skype is so old, but like Zoom or something like that. Like, we can make it happen. So if that's something that you would like to be a part of, email us, smalltownpodcast@yahoo.com. And of course, follow us on all the socials where we're posting lots more pictures this week, like Hales just mentioned. We're posting pictures of our grandparents this week. Oh, I'm already getting emotional. So, I don't even know why.
I don't either.
Because it's early and my belly's full, and so I'm just feeling extra good today. And so just all...
Well, Jill talks about her grandpa and her relationship and how amazing of a man he was.
Yeah.
And so that's what starting that off.
Yeah. So, my papa passed away in 2012. So what is that? Oh,
7 years ago?
Yeah. So 7 years ago, my papa passed. It may have been, I think it was 2012. I'm going to get text messages from my family like, Brandi, no, it was this year. Pretty sure that's when it was. But my papa and my nana, my papa in general, like, so part of Jill's story is about, is a domestic violence relationship, and my mom was in that. And so my mom was a single mom to my dad, and it was violent. It was incredibly violent. And so my Nana and Papa, every single day, they would pick me up from school, and I would pretty much stay at their house until dinner time. And we lived right across the street from them. And so it was just really easy to go back and forth. And so as I got older, it was easy for me to just go home, and I was old enough to stay by myself. And of course, my baby sister Kitty at the time, we didn't have Alex or Jeremy and Sean yet. So it was just me and Kitty, and my Nana and Papa, they raised us. And I, not even kidding, and everybody would agree with this statement, was my Papa's favorite. It absolutely was my Papa's favorite. I'm pretty sure my Papa would probably say it out loud too. He maybe wouldn't say it out loud as much in front of other people, but I was definitely his favorite. I was the only grandkid that was allowed to watch NASCAR with him. I was the only grandkid that knew where his secret stash of candy was. I knew where all of his gum was. And I was the only grandkid that didn't get in trouble when I would go and sneak that stuff. Everybody else would get in trouble, but not Brandi Rose. Brandi Hay. That's what he called me, Brandi Hay. And so that's just like, my papa was a good man, you know?
Yeah.
And he was an alcoholic, but he wasn't a violent alcoholic. He was a silly, told like outlandish stories. Like, he could make you believe anything, and he would just lie. But like this, and my Nana would always be shaking her head. No, that's not true. And they'd be like, but it could have happened. And he was a salesman, kind of, you know, he was just, but in a funny, non-offensive, non-manipulative sort of way. And in my early 20s, you know, when I was in the dating scene and going to bars and stuff like that, that's something that's a skill that I developed from my papa. And so dudes would come up to me and they would try talking to me, and I was not interested. And I would just, instead of, you know, I would just start lying to them and start telling them that I was like some semi-famous person who they maybe think they might have heard of, but they can't quite put their finger on it. And then I would just be like, yeah, my boyfriend, and I would make up some name. Oh, you know, he was in that show, blah, blah, blah. And I would be making up all of this stuff, and they would totally believe me. Maybe they're intoxicated and that's why they believe me, but they did, and they would leave me alone every single time. And I feel like that's just a skill that I developed from my papa. And I call it a skill because it was a skill in my early 20s.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So, but my Nana and Papa, man, shout out to them because they're just incredible people. My Nana is still alive. She's still a beautiful human, who loves in the hugest ways. We have to go over there every Wednesday for Survivor when Survivor's on. And, that's something that she looks forward to. We cook dinner with her. We see her lots more during the week sometimes. But always on Wednesday nights, we go and watch Survivor with my Nana. And word on the street is that's starting up in like a week. So mark your calendars, folks. That's where we'll be on Wednesday nights for the next, I don't know, month and a half or so, 2 months. About-ish. So, and my Nana, my papa, they know everybody. My grandparents have owned the flea market since like the 70s, the Farmington flea market. And so they know everyone, and everybody, I can mention who my grandparents are, and they will have known my grandparents from one, you know, sect of life or, you know, whatever. And so it's just one of those things that people love my Nana. They love my papa. They have great friends. Their friends are part of the folks who helped raise me when I was growing up. And so just good stuff.
Good people.
Yeah, so we're posting a picture of my papa because my mom has to dig through a huge archive of photos, and I don't think she's going to find one of me and my papa before we post this. So it's just going to be a picture of my papa, I think, but still good. He's a handsome man. He is a smoking hot man. So, yeah. Haley, tell us about your grandpa or your grandparents in general.
I don't know. I don't feel my dad's parents passed away when I was little. I think 92, 94-ish. But in those few years that I was around, I just followed my grandpa everywhere and did everything that he did in the yard and everything, you know. I feel like a lot of those inherent skills of being outside and working with your hands and doing yard work came from that. It stemmed from that, you know, whatever that was. And then my little pa, my mom's dad, he didn't pass until we were in 7th grade. And that was really hard to be able to remember that and be old enough to understand and process it, you know, because when you're little, stuff affects you very differently than when you're not little, you know.
Yeah.
When you're little, you don't remember it, and it's a different kind of thing because you're learning. But to lose little Pa in 7th grade, we were there every night for a month or two. We watched him, you know, die, which was really intense.
So grandparents. Ugh.
Yeah.
Shout out to all those old people. I mean, older people.
Well, and they're not even old because your mom's a grandparent and my
Yeah.
parents are grandparents,
It's true.
and they're not old,
It's true.
you know. And that's fortunate of however the world works of them being born, us being born at a certain time in their lives and all of that, you know.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah. I am a mess. Why am I crying so much?
I'm not sure.
Ugh.
It's okay though. This is the podcast
So-
where people get vulnerable.
So, so today just maybe call your grandma, your grandpa, your nana, your papa, your nona, or your pops or whatever. That's or your big paw or your little paw. What else?
Sure.
What
Or-
are other things? Mimi and Papa.
Puppy and Gigi.
Poppy and Gigi. Yeah.
Nona.
Call them and say what's up and tell them that you love them and
And at that same time, be grateful.
appreciate those moments.
Yeah.
Right? No
Yeah.
matter how many moments you got, even if it was just a few moments that you got with your grandparents.
Sure. It's good.
What is wrong with me?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's a good time to reflect, though. I
Yeah.
feel like that's what you're doing right now in front of this mic. Which is okay.
Okay. So let's get into that episode, huh? Because it's so much more than just grandparents in this episode.
Yep.
But that's just a special moment that we got to hear from Jill, and that's why we kind of wanted to reflect, and that's the community that we wanted to just recognize today is the community of grandparents are just old people who are taking care of their grandkids in one way or another. So take a listen to Jill's episode. She comes from a small tribal area. And her story, I heard about her story through a training that I was at once. She was working for an agency called Battered Families. It's in Gallup, and you can find that link here in her description. Battered Families is an agency that serves people who have experienced domestic violence in their marriage or their relationships, and they serve that community in lots of ways through counseling and through advocacy, that kind of thing. And so visit their website and refer anybody who may need to go to that website. Here in Farmington's community, that agency is Family Crisis Center. They're the domestic violence shelter. They're the domestic violence agency here locally. And then Jill and I have had the experience of working together. She just recently started working for the Gallup Office of Sexual Assault Services. And so now I've gotten to know her just on a whole different level. And she's a light. She's a light to the room that she is in, for real. She's just a pleasant person. She loves people. She has amazing kids. She has an amazing husband now. And she just has a really great story. So visit those links. We're going to do Battered Families in Gallup, and we're also going to do sexual assault services in Gallup. And for the local services here in this area, San Juan County, of sexual assault services and also Family Crisis Center. And then we're going to do some national agencies because we realize or we hope that there are folks listening from all over the place. And so we're going to do the national organizations for domestic violence and also sexual assault. So please check in the description for all of those links. Refer people to those links if they need help or if they need direction or if they have questions, that kind of thing. There's going to be an amazing person that answers that phone that's going to be able to guide and direct them and help that person in the situation that they're in. So please check those out and enjoy this episode of Jill. You're on Small Town Expectations.
But I'm still here, even in my years to come. I'm still gonna be here. I'm a survivor. I'm not gonna give up. I'm not gonna stop. I'm gonna work hard.
Hey everyone, I have my good friend, my coworker, my just somebody that I really look up to as a human on the line with me. This is Jill.
Hi everyone, my name is Jill Draven and I'm 36 years old.
So, Jill, first of all, can you just tell us kind of where were you born? I know some things about you, but there's a lot of things that I don't know about you. So, where were you born?
Okay, I was born in a little community in Arizona called Fort Defiance. It's located right on the Navajo reservation.
Yeah, there's no really big cities next to Fort Defiance, right?
No, Winter Rock.
Yeah, but it's really just kind of out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, out in the middle of nowhere, very rural, it's very small. There's no big cities on the reservation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to get to places, you have to drive really far from Fort Defiance.
Yes. I think the nearest
Um,
town would be Gallup, and that's probably at least about an hour, in about 45 minutes to an hour drive.
yeah, yeah. So one thing that is it's cool. I've had a couple other folks on my podcast who are Navajo, and they actually, well, one of them, not all of them, but one of them introduced herself in Navajo, and I would love for you to start off by sharing that because it's beautiful. I love this part of. I love so much about Navajo culture, but this is one of those things that I'm like, I need to do this in my own life, because it's significant. So can you share with us how you introduce yourself in Navajo?
Okay, I'll introduce that, but just to let you know, I'm half Navajo, so
okay.
But when I say my thing, you'll see.
Okay.
Okay, so I yat a she Jill Draven is she slay nisha twitch eatni in she Mississippi band of Choctaw a de shija Munchini a de shiche Mississippi band of Choctaw a de shinella.
Awesome. So you're Choctaw as well, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. I really love that. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah. I don't do that much, so that was a refresher.
Oh, good. And all your brothers and sisters out there know are like, oh, okay, yeah. I'm related to her. So there it is.
Yeah.
Cool. So tell us a little bit about what it was like being a kid in rural Fort Defiance.
Okay, so I didn't grow up in Fort Defiance. I grew up in this small community called Clagito. It's also located in Arizona. It's probably about an hour west of Fort Defiance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was home. It's still home, but I don't go home as much. But it's a little community, one store, a chapter house, a whole bunch of houses, and a fire station. That's pretty much, and a whole bunch of churches.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what Clagito is.
Do you still have family who live out there?
Yes, I have family. So my mother passed away, and my father lives out in Mississippi. That's where he's born and raised.
Okay.
And my mother and father both met in the Army and out in Fort Jackson, South Carolina. And they got married. They met, and that's where I was. That's where I was conceived, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Then my mom, she got pregnant, and she left the Army, and she came home to Arizona. And my dad stayed there, and my mom came back, and then my mom ended up staying. I don't know what the situation between my father and her was like at the time, but there was a lot going on. So my mom stayed here in Arizona, and I grew up in Clagito. And I have family there. My grandparents were also living in Clagito, but they're both deceased. And my aunties and my uncles still live in Clagito, and a whole bunch of cousins.
So the family that you go and see are all of your cousins, which is in native culture, like that's big. Those are big get-togethers.
Yes, very big.
Cool. So what are some of the like, do you have any cool stories or any crazy things that happened whenever you were a kid that you want to share?
Let's see. Um, let's see. I was very much a grandpa's baby. I did
Mm-hmm.
everything with him. Oh my goodness, he taught me so much. He taught me how to slingshot. And where my grandparents used to live in Clagito. So my grandpa was in World War II, and when he had retired from the army, and my grandma used to work on the army base, and they lived in California. So
Mm-hmm.
my grandparents wanted to move back closer to home. So the army had a little plot of land in Clagito, and they moved my grandparents onto that land, and there were some houses there, so they moved them into one.
Mm-hmm.
And so that building still stands. It's a house. It still stands. It's still there. It's still there. My uncle is in there. But that's where I was pretty much most of the time where I was when I was a child with my grandparents and my grandpa. But he would the cool thing about my grandpa is he would grow lemon trees, apple trees, orange trees, um, roses, and all sorts of flowers. And so he would show me those things, and we would water the plants every day. Then he
Mm-hmm.
had horses. So he would teach me how to barrel race. And he would also just everything to do with horses. Um, Combing the horses, feeding the horses, putting out the hay, putting out the grain, taking out the horses, just everything, everything and anything to do with horses. I was right beside him doing all that.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was the times where we take our daily walk to the store because he would get his newspaper. And so there was this guy. He's from the community, and he was probably the same age as my grandpa. But this guy used to have a crush on my grandpa. and my grandpa knew. And so this guy, he was like the community clown. He was funny. That's what I mean by clown. He was funny. He was
Uh-huh.
very humorous. He used to always like to pick on people. And I used to think he was a good person. We used to call him TCY. And he used to ride a horse over to the store like every day to get his paper also. And he would pass my grandpa's house, and it was a good distance, maybe about from where he used to pass the house was probably not even half a mile, much closer than that. But my grandpa knew he had a big old crush on my grandma. So one day we made slingshots, and my grandpa had some, and he wanted me to make my own. So we did a slingshot together, and we used to collect rocks, and we put the whole bucket of rocks on the porch. So my teaching from him to work my slingshot was when TCI would be passing by. So he sings, he'll be on his horse, and he doesn't sing, but when he comes near my grandpa's house, he'll sing because he knows he gets a rise out of my grandpa. So
Uh-huh.
then he comes along, and he's singing away, and he's trying to call my grandma's name. And I'm sure it was all fun and games, but so then my grandpa will be like, he's right there. Go get your rocks. Are your rocks all together? And I say, yes. And then I grab my slingshot, and then I would target practice on TCY.
Yes, that's
Oh, so
awesome.
awful. I would always miss him, but one time I hit the horse's butt, and the horse jumped up, and he fell off the horse, and it was hilarious.
Oh no.
Yeah. And
So are you good at a slingshot?
I would say I'm good at a slingshot. I'm good at
Yeah.
shooting guns.
Okay.
Yeah, and and then another thing my grandpa would do for my grandma and I was, I grew up Catholic, was practically born and raised Catholic. So he would saddle up the horse for us, and my grandma and I would take the horse and ride over to the church every Sunday.
Yeah, I love that. That's really cool. Because I think that's something that people think is like so 1800s, but you're not old, Jill.
No.
So, I mean, like, that's still real life, you know?
Yeah.
Not everybody has a car, and especially back then, not everybody had a car. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that story. What a great story.
Yeah, and the thing about my grandpa too is when I had homework assignments dealing with something in the past, like say World War II or just anything in the past, I would always go to him, and he always had a story to tell me all the time. He would talk the war because he was in World War II. Then he would talk about living on the base and talk about one thing he would always love to talk about is Gorbachev. And yeah, Gorbachev, yeah.
Like, isn't that a Russian leader?
Yes.
I don't.
Yes, and he had met him once. He met him once, and then he would talk about what was the guy down in Cuba?
Oh yeah, Castro.
Yes, he would always talk about Castro too. Those were his two. I don't know if they were his favorite, but I just know he always loved to talk, and always had a story to tell about them too. So
that is so interesting. I'm just curious, like, what was his experience with those two leaders? Because those weren't good leaders. Like, they were
bad.
Yeah. So, oh man, I wish like, how cool would it be to just like go to a time where we could talk to your grandpa and just hear those stories, you know? Because I'm intrigued, like, I'm interested.
Yeah, and see, I was small. I was elementary age. So I don't remember everything he said, but I would write everything down because it was for school. I'd write everything down. And I know in my grandparents' house, I would keep stuff. And so I know in my grandparents' house somewhere, there's a box of everything that I kept. And if I could only find that box, wow, those would be some stories.
Yes, that's awesome. I love that. I mean, you're making me think of my papa, and because my papa, he had some crazy stories. And it's one of those things that I think about when I was a kid, and I'm like, man, I would just love to, as an adult now, just sit and just hear my papa talk again, you know?
Yeah. And as a child, I was all like, I would be like, grandma would be like, did you get some stuff for your homework? Did you talk to your grandpa? And I'd be like, yeah. Like, what'd you guys talk about today? And I would be like, oh, that same man again. Or he's always talking about that Castro. I don't know, grandma. I'm gonna go play basketball now. And and now that I'm this old, I'm like, oh my God, I should have stayed there longer, like kept writing.
Yes.
I should have. Yeah, but
that's special. That's really special, Jill. Good stuff. So where did you go to high school?
I went to high school at Catholic school, St. Michael. It's called St. Michael's, and it was located in Arizona also. I went to high school there, and it was pretty much high school for me.
You played you said you played basketball. Did you play basketball in high school too?
Yes, I played basketball in high school. I played volleyball. I played softball. I was also on the cheer team. I was also on the dance team, and I was also a mascot.
Yeah. Wow, you did a lot.
I know, right? I was all over.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Well, so I feel like I remember, because you're not that much older than me. I feel like St. Mike's is a school that the local high schools played back then. I don't know if they still do, but right? I mean, do you remember playing like Farmington High School or Piedra Vista or something like that? Do you?
No, we never.
What am
We
I
never.
thinking of?
We never went into New Mexico. I think you're talking. There's also a St. Michael's in New Mexico.
It's over by like Santa Fe, right?
Something
it's over
like that,
on the eastern side of the state. That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
So the schools we played in high school, even though we were located, was probably the only Catholic high school on the reservation, only private Catholic high school on the reservation. And we never played. The thing about it is we never played games from the res. We had to travel for our games. We had to go to like Flagstaff, Joe City, Seligman, Ashfork, Williams, all those places past Flagstaff going toward Las Vegas.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So did it cut out just a little bit. You said that you only ever played other res schools. Is that what you said?
Oh no, we've never played res schools.
Never played res schools.
No,
okay.
Never did. And we had to travel 2 hours or more about 2 hours or more just to play another school.
That's totally why you played so many sports, was because all the traveling made you miss more school, right?
No, not necessarily. No, I played a lot of sports because my mom was a very athletic person, and as young as I can remember, I would probably say preschool, I remember always having a basketball in my hand. And my mom would take me out where my grandpa lived. There's in front of a little bit closer to the horse corral. He had made a what do you call stuff? A court for me.
A basketball court?
Yeah, he made one for me.
Okay.
So my mom him or mom, they would take me out there and hoops with me. My mom gave me drills and stuff. So practically that's all I did was basketball. But my passion was volleyball.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, cool. So, after high school, what were your experiences after high school?
So after high school, I wanted to, okay, so when I was in high school, that's when I met my boyfriend, first boyfriend I've ever had, which also became my husband. We met our freshman year, and he went to a different high school than me.
Okay.
And we would always just hang out like after school and stuff, and that's pretty much what we did, just hang out after school. And I think after high school, I knew I was going to college, and his plans, he had plans to go to college also, but closer to home. And I was just so undecided on what to do, where to go, la da da, and even what to major in, because in high school I had a chance to go to Cornell to do some kind of like internship in hotel management.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I went up to New York for like 3 months in the summer, and I
That's
did
incredible.
that. Yeah. And then I've also went to NAU for a summer and did the same thing with hotel management. So I thought I could do this, build some big resort on the reservation, make most of it, tourists have a place to go, la da da. That was what I thought. But when I actually did start taking classes and going to school and college for that, and that's when I moved to Miami, Florida. That's where I was going to school at. And I had opportunity because it's a tourist destination. So then I started to realize maybe this is not what I want to do.
Yeah.
And so I was still very undecided. And at that point, I had moved to Texas, and I started pursuing different ideas besides the hotel management, but I still wasn't sure. I was thinking maybe something in the law field, not necessarily police officer, but something like an investigator, or maybe even a lawyer. But then I was like, I don't know. Then I was, in the midst of trying to figure out what I want to do. And then my grandpa had got very sick, and very, very sick. And I had to come back home to Clagito. And my grandpa was still at home at that time. And when I got there, when I pulled up into and see, living in Florida and living in Texas, I didn't get that much opportunity to come home. We just talk a lot over the phone. And so when my grandpa got sick, he's my world. So I came back and he was still at home. And I remember pulling up into the front of the house, and he's looking at the vehicle like, who's this? My grandpa was a cool cat. And he was looking at the car like, who's this coming here? So I got out of the vehicle, and he saw me, and he was so sick he couldn't even jump up and down, but he was trying hard to pull himself up, and he was so old, old. Like, it's like within 1 month he went from looking like he was the cat on the street to looking like he was like, just, I don't know, like you could see that he was gonna, like, slowly slipping away. And when I got out, he was so excited, and he was just a look on his face, and he said, Jill, is that you? And I said, yes, Grandpa. And he would not let go of me. And I told him, I can't sit on your lap, Grandpa, I might break you.
You're tiny, by the way, so I don't know about that.
And he was crying, and he was holding me, and he was so happy I was home. And I remember before I came home, my family would say, when are you going to come and visit? Grandpa keeps asking for you. And I would tell them, whenever it's expensive. I'm going to try to make it home. But when I did see him, he was so happy to see me, but I knew he was very sick. And it was that night that, I don't remember what exactly happened, but they had to airlift him out to Flagstaff. And from there, they stuck him in a nursing home for like a week. And every day was during that week. And I was with him every day. And within that same week, that's when I found out that I was pregnant with my first child.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I told him in the nursing home, and he was so excited and all that stuff, but at the same time sad, because he knew his day was coming. Then it was at the end of the week, they had to fly him back to the hospital again, and then this time they put him in a hospice, and he stayed awake for at least 4 days, and then he was gone. So that was why I came home, was because of him. Yeah.
And so so you got to be there whenever he passed? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Before the day that they put him in hospice, after the second time they flew him to hospital, they put him in hospice, and I showed up there, and he wanted a chance to speak with everyone one by one. And so when it got to me, I went in there with my, well, he was my husband then, but he's my ex-husband now, but we both went in there, and he told my ex-husband to take care of me. And he was just touching my tummy. And he was telling my soon-to-be child, telling my soon-to-be child that you're going to have the greatest mom on earth. She is so fun. She is so lovable. and he was hugging me and telling me he loves me. And my grandpa used to sing to me also. And we used to dance in the kitchen when we were doing dinner or cleaning. And so the song, the TV was on and the song came on. I can remember that song. It's called Paint Me in Birmingham by John Michael Montgomery. That was playing, and he was singing it. You couldn't understand what he was saying, but he was just like very like mumbling almost at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And he's holding my hand, and he's telling me he loves me, and he's gonna miss me. Yeah.
Oh, Jill, like I'm like blubbering over here.
I know, it's so sad. It's sad.
It is, which it's really beautiful that you got to experience that, you know? And yeah, he didn't get to meet your children, but he got to, got to have some sort of moment with you. And then, that in turn is a moment with them too. So, it's good. It's so good. I'm like literally blubbering. So,
yeah, I know it's really sad. And I know that day that my whole family's there, we're all chance to speak. And it was we started early in the morning and we were done toward the evening. And then the doctor and nurse went in there into the room to do a little checkup on him. And then they came out, and then that's when they said he's gone.
yeah.
And I remember within that moment when they said that, I was standing there looking out the window, and I just saw out of nowhere when he came out to say that he was gone, a big bull elk came up by the tree, and it was just standing there looking at me. And so, yeah, and I was just like, what the heck? And so every time I see elk, I think of my grandpa.
Yeah. It's seriously so special. And I feel dumb because I can't think of anything better to say because I'm just like, oh, that's so beautiful, you know?
Yeah,
so,
it is. It's beautiful, but God, I miss him so, so, so much.
Yeah. I miss my papa too. Like that has sparked some stuff inside of me.
Yeah.
So share with us a little bit about how your life changed after all of this happens. What happens next?
So after all this happened, I left back to Texas. And from there, I kind of felt like I was really sad. I was just thinking, what am I going to do? I felt like I fell into somewhat like a small depression, almost just small. And then I got the great idea. I'm going to move to Mexico. And I moved to Mexico.
Oh, wow.
I know. I moved to Monterrey. It was one of the big cities in Mexico, and I moved there. And I moved there. I had a friend that I used to be friends with in Texas, and she had her grandparents still lived out there, and it just so happens that one of her cousins was getting married. And so I went out there with her thinking, is this something I really want to do? Let me check this wedding out for the weekend and see how it goes. But it turns out a wedding in Mexico was like a week-long event. So we stayed a week, and God, it was so entertaining. Everything they do, all the culture, the traditions, and all the culture associated with it, everything. So I had a very good time, and after that week, I decided this is something I can do. And I remember I thought to myself, what am I going to do for money? So one of the things that they do is they try to get the whole wedding party together and do like a choreography with dance and everything. And I had helped my friend with that, and I thought, hey, I could do this. So family had hooked me up with someone who could help me with it. So that's kind of what I did, just kind of teach like dance class. It was nothing big, didn't pay much, but it got me fed. And it's not like I didn't pay rent, or I didn't pay rent at all. I lived with her grandparents. Monterey is basically in a valley, and it's surrounded by beautiful mountains. And most of the people live on the mountains. And how it was you come to the mountain, and all the houses, it's so old school, really old school. The houses are made out of like brick and rock, and it's like cobblestone streets, and it goes up the hill. And so what happens is you park on the bottom, your vehicle on the bottom, and there's all your groceries or whatever you bought or whatever you need, you throw them on the donkey, and you ride the donkey up the mountain. And then you get to your house, you pay the person who did the whole donkey service. And then the house I live in was made out of rock, and the restroom was built into the mountain. So I would have natural water coming out when I took a shower.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was
So
awesome.
did you have your first child in Monterey?
No, I didn't have my first child in Monterey. I came back here.
Okay.
I was only in Monterey just for a bit.
What a great moment though for you to be able to experience, and just the landscape and the culture, just because that's a rich culture. So how cool that you got to do that. That's really neat.
Yeah, it was nice, but I told myself I gotta go back. First of all, I can't have a child here, and second of all, I was missing home, and yeah, it was a different experience as far as the food. And when people talk about Mexican food, I'm over here like, this is not Mexican food. But because it's totally, they don't even know what an enchilada is. They don't know any of that stuff. And I'm over here looking like, where's the enchiladas? Where's this? But that's not Mexican food. That's Mexican American. And then their hamburgers, they actually put ham in it.
Oh.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Okay.
Yeah, they actually put ham in it. And I'm not a cheese person. So they made cheese with everything. And chorizo every day with every dish. And I don't like chorizo either. but I found a street vendor that was close to where I used to work, and they made the best tacos, and that's what I ate. That's what I survived on.
Yeah. How cool. That's really neat. Not cool that, you had to just survive on tacos, but tacos are pretty delicious.
Yeah. And this was the good tacos. They had the pico de gallo, the actual steak, and the tortilla. And yeah, it was good.
Cool. So, whenever you came back, how old were you when you moved back to to the States? To Arizona.
Gosh, what did I have in 2000? I would say I was probably 23.
Okay. So you're still really young. You're still young, but you're younger.
I don't feel young. I feel old.
So tell me what it was like in your, just now that you're back in Arizona, and you're about to have a child, and your life is about to change huge.
Yeah. So through all this, living in Florida, living in Texas, I was still at the time I was not married yet, but he was the father of my child, and we were still in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, and he would come to visit me a lot and everything. But I knew, I don't know, I guess in the back of my head, I knew that he was out here in Arizona, and I knew there was a possibility he could be seeing other people.
Mm-hmm.
But I was living life, and I was just like, okay, it really didn't bother me. But I think when I got pregnant, that's when I kind of started to realize, like, oh my God, I got to tell my family, for one. And I did tell my family eventually, not right away.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing, and I come from a Catholic family, and the first thing they did to me was, all right, well, we're going to have a marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Like, excuse me? I didn't think about that. I didn't think about that. And my family was like, you're supposed to be married first before this happens. And how did this happen? And they were pretty upset. And I'm like, I'm 23. I'm not 17. I'm not
Right.
16.
Yeah.
I'm 23. And they said, all right, we're gonna have to do this. And so he had proposed to me, and we got married. And that was the biggest mistake of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, but it was.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is part of your story that I know. And this part of your story is not as awesome as living in Monterey.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a powerful part of your story. And so I think that this is so much of your story. I'm not trying to, you know, the part with your grandpa and the part where, how you grew up, like riding a horse and your slingshot, like all of those things, like somebody there, that's resonating in so many people's hearts. But now I know you as Jill Draven doing incredible work as an incredible mom. And when I hear this next part of your story, I'm like, how? And
Yeah.
it's just, wow, you know?
Yeah, that's same for me. I always would ask myself, how did this happen? How did it happen?
Yeah.
And that's the thing I struggled with for a long time. And because even before the marriage, he was very sweet. He was very, I mean, since 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 to 2, 7 years before we got married, he was so awesome. He was so sweet. He was a really great guy. And then I get pregnant. He was still great. And then of course the marriage, the pregnancy, the baby came, and then and it was like about 2 to 4 months after baby was born, everything changed.
Yeah.
It was like I couldn't. It was hell, basically. I don't know how else to describe it. It was hell. It was little things, little things like, where are you going? And I'm the grocery store. And I would be like, why is he? Well, and it wasn't the way it wasn't like, it wasn't like, hey, honey, where are you going right now? And be careful while you're out. It wasn't that. It was very mean and in your face. Where the heck do you think you're going? And I'm like, what the heck? I'm looking at him like, is this funny? Am I supposed to laugh? Are you teasing me? Or it started out small like that. Where are you going? Who the heck are you talking to? Let me see your phone. And it just, and I'm like, what? And I'm freaking out. And then it started off with small pushing, and that went to big pushes. And then it went to getting thrown across the room, and small taps on the shoulder or on the back or whatever turned into full-blown hits. Smacks on the face turned into full-blown slaps in the face, or punches in the face. Everything just changed. Everything changed. And I didn't know anything about domestic violence. I didn't know that things like this could happen. I mean, I've seen people growing up, seen stuff like that, but I never thought, like, I didn't know what it was, and I never thought it would happen to me.
Yeah.
And then as time went on, it just got worse and worse, to the point where this man literally is really trying to kill me. He's left me for dead. He's tried to run me over. He's tried to hold my hand and drive off, so that, in the hopes that I would slide underneath the car. He's just awful, one awful man. And I felt like I couldn't do nothing. I was timed for everything. If I went grocery shopping, and he would always say, "It doesn't take this long to go grocery shopping. Where the heck were you?" And I'm like, the lines were long. And he would accuse me of seeing someone. If I get a phone call on my phone, he wanted to know who was calling me. And then if he wasn't around when I had to do things, he would check my phone at night. He would say, "Okay, it's time to give me your phone." And I would give him my phone, and he would look through that whole thing. He would call numbers that he didn't know on there. And it was embarrassing, because, sometimes it might be like, like if you had a project in one class, it could be like, a team member on your that's working with you on the project, and just calling to say, "Hey, we're going to work on this project. Where do you guys all want to meet," or something. And it was embarrassing the next day, seeing these people, and they would look at me, but they would never say anything, but they would give you that look. And then, even as far as registering for classes, I couldn't have a male professor. If I did, either the male professor was going to hit on me, or I was going to be a whore and sleep with the male professor. And I just couldn't do nothing. As far as my clothes, and the thing too was, he kept like a ledger of everything, he provided for me. He bought me a shirt, or if he bought me shoes, whatever it is, clothes, anything that was for me, he would keep a ledger, and he would write down how much it was and what item was bought. And then I'll tell you what he did with that ledger. But he did so many awful things like that. All my friends slowly disappeared, because he started saying stuff like, "They're single. You're not single. You're a married woman. I bet you guys just talk about boys." And would tell him, "No, that's not what we talk about. I can have friends that are single." And he'd be like, "No," because he would say that single women are whores, and you're married if you hang, and stuff like that. So my friends slowly disappeared. Even as far as my family, he would beat me up so much that I was afraid to even be around my family, because I didn't want them to know. And then if I had a bruise, I definitely didn't want them to see that. So I remember there was a lot of times where they would come and visit, and I wouldn't answer the door. I would sit in my room, and they would be ringing the doorbell, and I wouldn't answer it. They would text and say, "Oh, we just stopped by to say hi. I know we didn't let you know we were coming, but we just figured we'd give it a shot and see if you were home. We miss you. We love you." They would say stuff like that. And I'm just right there. I'm right there, but I don't want to answer the door because my face is messed up, or I can hardly walk because I'm bruised all over. And it was awful. It was a very awful marriage.
How long did this go on for?
I want to say all the way to 2013.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And how did you get away from him? Like what was the final straw, and where did you go?
So, The final straw was what did he do? He had we had went to like a dinner party, and we went there, and the person who was hosting the dinner party was like a friend of a friend or something like that. And so there was a lot of people there we knew and some people we didn't know. And I remember we were eating, and there, of course, drinks were flowing, alcohol drinks. And my ex-husband, he loved to drink. He was a drinker. And so he's taking it all and just drinking. And I knew something was going to happen if he keeps drinking. So I kept on saying, we should go home. We should go home. Mm-hmm. And he was like, no, I'm having fun. We're going to stay here. Then he kept drinking and drinking. And then it got to the point where he started coming up to me and saying, who the heck are you talking to? And I would look at him like, what? No one. And then there would be times where, well, most of the time, not times, but most of the time I'm right beside him, because if I walk away and just do anything, he's going to accuse me of cheating. Mm-hmm. So I was with him, beside him most of the time. The only time is when I had to go potty. And that going to the potty was, who are you seeing back there? Mm-hmm. So it was hard, but he was getting drunk. And I remember at one point I said, all right, I needed to go to the restroom. I got up, went to the restroom. He followed me in there, and he was like, he started yelling at me, accusing me of being with someone there at the party. And I said, no, I'm not. I'm by you. I've been by you the whole night. And then he just attacked me right there in the restroom. He just started punching me, throwing me against the wall. He threw me in the bathtub, and he turned the water on where it got really hot, and it was burning my skin. And the owner of that, I was screaming, the owner of the house came and kicked the door open, and he ran out the door. Ran out the front door, and he was gone. So I was laying there, my clothes were torn and everything, and they picked me up. They put me in one of the rooms, and one of the girls that knew me came in, and she had a rag, and she would start wiping down my face and everything. And she was telling me, I had no idea this was happening in your relationship. And I was embarrassed, because now all these people knew what was going on in my marriage. And I didn't want to go home because I was scared that he was going to be there and do something else to me again. So I ended up staying there at that place that night. And the next morning I got up and went home. When I came home, he was in the backyard. And what he had did is he took out all my clothes, and he was putting it in the fire. All my clothes, all my pictures, everything that belonged to me, he's putting it in the fire. And I left him alone. I went back in the house, and I was just looking at everything that was gone, all my stuff, and I didn't have no clothes on, just what I had on from that night. And so I just sat there on the bed, and I didn't know what to do. I was scared. And then he came back in the house, and he passed out. So I cleaned myself up, and I thought, okay, I'm going to pack the kids a few items, and we're going to leave. We're going to go to my sister's, I thought. And so before that, I fed them, I cooked for them, and I was kind of scared to wake them up. I didn't want to make that much noise. And so he had finally woke up before he left. And by that time I was putting stuff in the trunk of the car. And he came out, he got pissed off, and he basically pushed me off the back of the porch, the back of the house, and I fell. We had gravel in the backyard. I fell in the gravel, and it hurt. And then he came right on top of me, and he started punching me. punching me, punching me, punching me. And my face was just going left, right, just back and forth, left and right, left to right, left to right, back and forth. I must have counted at least 12 times. And by the 12th time, I was out. I I I basically passed out. And I do remember at one point feeling a kick on like by my stomach and stuff, but I was out of it. I passed out. And I remember coming to, and I was in my neighbor's house, and my looked at me crying. When I looked at her and I jumped up and I'm like, "Why are you crying? How did I end up here? What's going on?" And she had told me what she had heard, and her husband peeked over the gate to see what was going on. So as soon as he booked it out of the backyard, they came into the yard, and they picked me up and took me into their house. And she was scared to even touch me, and I didn't know how I looked at that point. So I ran back across because I thought the kids, oh my goodness, what did they see? What did they hear? Did they even see that? I was so worried about them. So I ran across the house, and they were standing there in the living room, and they looked at me, and the look on their face was like they were shocked. And they just started crying. They're like, "Mom, Mom." And they just ran to me, and they were freaking out looking at me. And I ran into the restroom, and I looked at myself, and my eyes were, God, I looked awful. My whole face had swelled up, and it didn't look like a normal face where your face is round or it looked like it looked like my face was deformed. And my lips were busted and cut up. My nose was crooked a little bit, but it wasn't broken. Thank God it wasn't broken, but he fractured the heck out of it. And then my ears were all cut up, and there was blood coming out my ears, blood coming out my nose, blood coming out my eyes. And my eyes was closed shut on one side. The other side was all the way, but I just had a little opening where I could see through. And it was a mess. My whole face was like, it looks like, I don't know, it was just like all red. It looked like if you could just put a needle into my face, all that blood was going to squirt out or something. That's how it was. And so, and then I looked at my body, and I had, because it was on gravel, I had like little rocks kind of like stuck in me. And I went to the backyard, and when I looked in the backyard, not only did he do what he did to me, he dragged me around the backyard. So there was like a trail of blood, like he was mopping the backyard with my body. And it was bad, and I was bruised up all on my sides because he had kicked me over on the sides after he stopped punching me. And that moment I realized, if I don't leave this man, he's going to kill me. He's going to kill me. And so I packed up what I could from my kids' stuff, and obviously I had nothing. I packed it up, and I told my sister, "You need to come get me now. I'm done. You need to come get me." And she came. She freaked out, and she got me and the kids, and we left, and I never went back.
And so you had your family to go to. How did you now you're so okay, that was 2013, so you must have been like 20, probably about 26 or so.
I think so. I don't remember how old I was.
No, actually, you must have been like 29 or 30.
Yeah, something
right?
like that. Yeah.
So, how have you healed from that trauma? Because Jill, like, that's a lot, you
It is.
know? I mean, it's a long time that you experience that, and then that's like when I said what was the last straw, like that's a heck of a last straw, you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah. How I healed from it was, I remember the last time an officer had responded to because the police were called often. I would always call the police on him. And the last time they had came to the house, they had said something about battered family services, the domestic violence agency here in town.
Yeah, in Gallup.
Yeah, here in Gallup. Yeah. And I decided, hey, I should try and get some therapy, at least some therapy, because I being being abused for so long, I felt like I didn't know who I was anymore. Everything about me was for him. I don't remember what I like. I didn't remember anything. You could ask me, what's your favorite thing? I'd have to say my favorite things is whatever he liked. What's your favorite music? Whatever he liked. What's your favorite food? Whatever he liked. I forgot who I was in this whole process. So I figured I have to go see a therapist. I have to get back to who I am. And I had to be strong for my kids. So I went there. That's when I met Rachel. And she's a therapist, and she helped me the whole process. And it was a long process, but I got through it. And now I'm shoot. It doesn't, like, it is a part of what my life, what I've been through, but it doesn't I can get through it without crying. I can I it's I would say I totally just, how would you say? I guess I could say I wouldn't say over it. Well, I guess I could say I'm over it. Like, it doesn't affect me anymore.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
it's just something that that you survived and that you're empowered through because you survived it. And I think you're doing so many good things in your life, your children, your husband now, all of those things are just really incredible. And I think that's part of the healing. It's part of the moving forward and being a functioning person, who can do good things.
Yeah.
And yeah, so.
Yeah, and it was even after when I filed for a divorce in November 2013, when I filed for divorce. Even the whole divorce process, oh my goodness, it was an awful process. It took 3 years and 3 months to divorce this man. He threw everything he could into this divorce. He was awful. He was still abusive. He did everything and anything to prevent me from getting anything. As a matter of fact, he burned everything in the house just so I won't get my half. He told me he's not going to pay child support. He told me that I'm not entitled to retirement. Drive me through the mud, but no matter what I did, I was strong, and I fought hard. Well, my lawyer fought hard, and and then of course his lawyer did everything to just everything she could on his behalf. And for 3 years and 3 months, it was an ongoing battle. And then finally, some of the stuff he just didn't want to sign because the judge said I had to get half of the retirement, and he didn't want to give me half. What he did, though, that ledger, this is where the ledger comes back in. He brought the ledger to court, and he told the judge This is everything I spent on her, all her bills I paid from the time we got married, and everything I ever bought for her. Everything I ever bought, every bill I paid, I kept it in this book right here, and I totaled it all up. And so I want all that money back. And that's what he said.
And it was like he was anticipating all of this to happen.
Yeah.
That's scary.
That's I laugh about it now, but it was scary back then. But that's what he did, and the judge looked at him like, are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
And
even the judge saw it though. That's good. That's really good.
Yeah. Told his lawyer, throw that out. I don't want to see that in my court ever again. And told him, you married her. You guys became one. And said, how dare you come into my court? How dare you come into my court suggesting that she pay you back for all this? She's the mother of your children, and all this stuff. And so that got shot down. And but yeah, he wanted me to pay back every cent he spent on me. And yeah, that didn't fly well with the judge. So
right.
And so finally, then the retirement. He said, I'm not giving her half the retirement. I'm not giving her half. But the judge said, you guys been married. I guess it's, if you're married 10 plus years, you're entitled to retirement. And so the judge told him, you can't get out of this. No matter what kind of argument or fight you put up, you cannot get out of this. And so he was pissed. So for a while, he went and signed the paper. Then finally one day, out of the blue, while I was at work, he called and he's like, can I talk to you? And I said, yeah. I said, what's going on? He's like, do you have the papers that I need to sign? And I said, yeah. He goes, meet me in 20 minutes around the corner. I'll sign them. I'll give you what you want. And I was like, are you smoking crack? And he goes, it's your only chance. And I said, okay. And then I hung up the phone. I grabbed all the papers he needs to sign, everything. And I called my lawyer, and she told me, have police with you, because throughout the divorce process, he has also threatened to kill me. He has also said stuff like, I wish I would have killed you when I had the chance. He would say stuff like that. So she wanted police with me. So they had showed up, and they just stayed right there. They didn't really talk to us. They just kept an eye on us, and I gave him all the papers, and he signed them all. And that was and I took it. I ran down to the courthouse, met my lawyer there. We turned it in, and looked over, signed it, and I was done. I was done. I was so happy. I was so excited. I was like, this is happening. I'm divorced. I was and
yeah.
Oh, I was so happy. I was so happy. But that's basically that. Yeah, I was very happy. But where we're at now today, my ex-husband and I, obviously he's still part of my life because we have children together. We have 3 kids, the 14, 12, and 11-year-old.
Wow.
Yeah. And he gets them every weekend. And where we're at now is we're at a stage where we can talk, and I'm not scared of him anymore. I used to be scared of him for a long time. I'm not scared of him anymore. As a matter of fact, when he comes and he has attitude and wants to be fresh, I'm like, bring it on. Bring it on. I'm ready. I'm not that girl you knew a long time ago. I'm and we can talk, we can laugh. One day he did come to the house, and he told me he was sorry for everything he did to me. And I was like, what? And he apologized for everything he did. And he just said to me, I hope one day you can forgive me. And just told me if I can't, he understands. And but we talk and everything, but he still does some crappy stuff. But it's usually with the kids. He still does a lot of crappy things. But I would say we're in a good place. It's just some things that he has done recently that are not good. So, in regards to the kids, such as, sometimes he'll call them names. When he does have them, he'll drink a lot. He lies to them, and they catch him in the lie, and they feel really sad. There's just a lot of things that he has done. And the kids, it's been a journey with them, because after the divorce, he practically disappeared. He didn't see the kids for 3 years.
Wow.
And within those 3 years, oh my God, that was the hardest thing, because in the beginning, the kids would be like, is Daddy coming this weekend to get us? Is he coming this weekend? Is he coming this weekend? And then that turned into, where's Dad? Has he called? Mom, has he called us? Has he called? And then that turned into, how come Dad doesn't love us? Dad doesn't love us. He doesn't come for us anymore. He has other kids, and those kids are better than us. And what did we do wrong, Mom? What did we do wrong? How come he hates us? And they would cry themselves to sleep. And I would always put up that big, strong thing for them and be like, you're going to be okay. Don't cry. And, rub their back until they fall asleep, wipe away their tears, and tell them, Mommy's here. Mommy loves you. I'm here. I'm here with you. And never once did I talk bad about their dad. I could have said so much stuff, but I never did. I would just say, maybe Dad's going through a situation that is tough for him, and right now he just can't empathize. Or I would say, Dad will come. Trust me, he'll come. How can he not? You guys are so great. You guys are the greatest kids. He can't stop seeing you guys. He's gonna come. You just wait and see. I always try to keep them thinking, like, okay, keep their spirits up and stuff.
Yeah.
Always did that. Never spoke bad about their dad, as much as I wanted to, but I was like, nope, I don't want to do that to my kids. No. So then that all turned into, they stopped asking about their dad. They totally just forgot who he was. Then out of the blue, 2016, or the start of 2017, he called, and he wanted to see the kids. And then he explained what he was doing for the past 3 years. And he told me he was sorry. And he said he wants to see the kids. And I told him, I'm going to leave it up to them. I said, you don't know what they've been through with you being absent like this. So then I asked the kids, and first they were hesitant. And my 2 youngest were like, hell no. But my oldest was excited. And, but eventually they all did go, and they heard him. And so now it's in that process where they're trying to get used to their dad all over again. And he's been consistent getting them every weekend. But of course his drinking is still there. He still says a lot of bad stuff. Like, for example, some of the things he says to the youngest, you're a wimp, you're a punk, you're a wuss, you're a pussy. All you're gonna do is just live right by your mom, and you're such a mama's boy, you're not gonna get nowhere in life. That's what he says to the youngest. Another thing he has said was, when they had asked him, Dad, what's the most disgusting thing you did in life? And somebody will say, oh, one time I ate this and it tastes so ugly, But what he told the kids was, the most disgusting thing I ever did in my life was meeting your mother. He says stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then when things don't go his way, he'll say it under his breath, but the kids will hear him. He'll say stuff like, damn, I should have killed your mom a long time ago. he says stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So wow. So now, I mean, you are a social worker, and you work with people who've experienced sexual violence now with, in the Gallup office of sexual assault services. And so, I mean, just to come from that to being able to help people and serve people and, encourage them to get out of dangerous situations, like what a transformation.
Yeah, a big transformation. And so getting the chance with battered families, when they first offered me a job and getting that chance, I jumped on it, because not only did I go through it, I was like, this is my chance. This is my chance to let women know that there is something better out there.
Yeah.
Empower these women. This is my chance to help women who are going through this with the whole DV aspect. And that's exactly what I jumped on it. And I just went right into it. And that's what I did.
Yeah.
And
you are very good at your job. So, you're an inspiration, Jill, for real, and your story is one of those that really will resonate with people. It does. And, I just appreciate you so much. I appreciate just who you are and the love that you have for people. You're an incredible mom, all of those things. You're very, you're just an inspiration, really.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I try.
Well, we have been talking for a very long time.
I know.
But it's totally okay. It's totally okay. I always say to folks that I never want to cut you off. I never want to, cut somebody short. And so I want to give you the opportunity to say anything else that you want to say, or give some props to people, or plug something, anything. This maybe is the part that I didn't prepare you for so good.
Yeah, I'm like,
I know, right? Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I will say this. I think that just because of who you are, I think we can link battered families for folks in Gallup and in that surrounding area. And then also we're going to link the Gallup office. And so, if folks are in this situation, or in a situation where they feel hopeless, or they feel like they need direction and they need questions answered, or they need help getting out of this kind of situation, I think this is a place, those are a couple of places that you can go to for help. And so we'll definitely put the links in your description of this episode. And so, yeah, I think, that's available to people. I want people to know that is available.
Oh, awesome.
Cool.
I feel like a celebrity.
Well, you are.
Because I listen to the other podcasts, and I'm like, it's awesome and everything. And
Yeah. Well, Jill, for real, I appreciate you so much coming in. Obviously you're not at my house. We kind of moved this up. We were going to record in person, and we moved it up a little bit.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you cutting out this time for me, and sharing your story, getting so stinking vulnerable on this thing. So thank you for that. And, yeah, this has been another episode of Small Town Expectations. Until next time, have a great week.